Welcome to VezaTalks podcast. Tune in as we delve into the digital world of entrepreneurship and uncover the strategies and tactics of successful business leaders. Today, it's my great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nichols. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. I'm going to be just mentioning a couple of things about your past so that our viewers can have a better idea of who you are. Terry is a mentor to ultra high net worth individuals, a United Nations Peace Ambassador at large, a US Navy veteran, and an ambassador of URGC-Global. He's a 2021 and 2022 nominee for Thinkers 50 Top Thinkers Distinction, as well as a Top 50 Marketing Influencer to Follow 2022 by the Awards magazine, and has written 8 or 9 books. Correct me if I'm wrong.
9 books now.
9. All right. I knew there was one more in the oven, and welcome. It's super interesting to have you on our podcast. I would like to start out with, first of all, with your name. It's a very unusual name. I'm sure everybody asks you about it, and you have probably a little story around that. So I think we would really like to know your whole title. We could probably have a whole podcast on the title, but I think Terry Earthwind Nichols is very unique, and if you can let us know what the background is on that.
Sure. Earthwind is my tribal name. I'm an indigenous man to North America, to America. I'm Chickamauga Cherokee. And my Earthwind is my tribal name. That's how I'm addressed in my society. And it's quite interesting. The HE is His Excellency and Ambassador. As you mentioned, I'm a UN ambassador, peace ambassador at large. I'm also a global ambassador for United Refugee Green Council. So yes, thank you for mentioning those. Those are near and dear to my heart because I'm a big climate and world peace guy. That's my journey in life. So Earthwind comes from the fact that I was born in American English. I was born a fourth generation Irish American white boy. Never knew that I was an Indian or an indigenous until I was 46 years old. And it's quite a story. Chickamaugas are kind of light skinned, and they've always been light skinned, so they can fit into mainstream society without any issues, unlike traditional Native American people. And so to give us a fair start, our parents didn't, my brother and I, we were not told as kids that we were Chickamauga, with the intent that when we got older, in our 20s and able to choose our own road, they would tell us. Well, there's just one problem with that. They were both gone by the time I was 24. And so there was nobody to tell us. The last person that knew anything about it in both sides of my family, father's side, mother's side, just before he died, told my brother, hey, did your dad ever tell you you kids are Indians? And that floored him. He's a real redneck, loves to watch, drink beer and do all those kinds of things. And for me, it was like, okay, that makes sense to a lot of things in my life. And before I knew it, I had found and joined my tribe and became an elder. Because as you can tell, I've got a few years on me. I just turned 70 this month.
Oh,
And
wonderful! You look great.
so they gave me the name God Chickamauga, which means his breath across the earth, or Earthwind. Because I do a lot of traveling internationally, they felt that was a good name to protect me as I travel. So that's the short story of it, Mario. Actually, we could go to a couple hours on the Earthwind thing alone.
On that. Well, that's wonderful. So that's really amazing. I mean, I really like when people kind of discover their roots. I myself did that about 5 years ago, and I went back to my original land, so to speak, in Eastern Europe, and I did something similar to figure out, my ancestors, and it's really dear to me. I really grew from that experience, and it's nice to connect with your ancestors, and there's a certain energy that goes with that, and it gives you a certain type of well-being, I suppose. So yeah, I'm super happy about that. I love that. Maybe I'll figure out a name for myself too. But I want to talk a little bit before we get into delve into business and that kind of stuff. I understand you were in the U.S. Navy 20 years, and you became a recruiter. So I guess to become a recruiter, you had to have a special knack for something. And can you maybe let us know what that was and how you got around to becoming a recruiter and the secret sauce of recruiting, I suppose?
Well, I was recruiting support, and I did some active recruiting. Well, we all do in the Navy. We talk about our Navy, right? But I did some officer recruiting in my first tour. I was in recruiting in 3 different tours, and I spent 2 tours on 2 different kinds of ships, which all of those tours were very unique in the way they were organized and set. I saw some wonderful, wonderful places in the world, and no regrets there. And so um, I found early on, and it's still true today, know your numbers, analyze what's going on, how it's going on, what works, and more importantly, what doesn't work, so you don't repeat it. Sometimes what doesn't work needs repeating a couple of times because you just have that instinct in there that says, this is going to work. We just got to figure it out. And boom, there was occasions where it did. Well, the results of this was within the whole Navy recruiting environment, which is Europe, Navy recruiting, different people in Americans in Europe, and all of America. And this competition, 46 districts, there's always a 1, 2, 3, etc. And so the marketing teams that I ran in all 5 recruiting districts that I was a member of, we won 7 national championships with 3 different teams. And the
Wow.
way we did that is we did some smart placement. We did some smart recruiting. Um, I convinced my commanding officers, even though I was in support, that the public relations people work for me. They don't send out anything without me approving it, because the last thing I want is an advertising for aviation and there's no aviation jobs. So you get all these people come in to join the Navy and they're all pumped up to fly a F-14 fighter, and there isn't any. That's not good business. That's not smart marketing.
Yep.
So once we did that, I went right up to number 1 and gained quite a reputation from it, actually. I would have other districts around the U.S. reach out to me and talk to their marketing team, tell them what's going on, so we'll all be better at what we do and more successful. I've always been a team player.
That's amazing. So I know personally probably every single pilot I know got into the call it Air Force, Navy, whatever, by watching Top Gun. It was it's such a big recruitment tool, I suppose. I mean, the first one and now the second one. I mean, it just gets everybody going, and it's really really cool to see that, right? So that's interesting. So 20 years at the U.S. Navy, and then I understand that you also were in the custom clothing and private club business. So tell us a little bit about that and your background in that and what you learned in that space.
You bet. Mario, back in the late last century, I love saying that, back in the 90s, my varied background was a risk for senior leaders in a lot of corporations. Okay. However, I have a really good eye for cloth and design and those kinds of things. I was working part-time at a very nice men's store in Virginia towards the end of my Navy career. And they could see that, and they started teaching me how to do made-to-measure clothing. So that has been huge for me because it has helped I used to sell custom clothing, for instance, to men and women. Okay, because women just have just as big of problems as men do a lot of times, and if they don't know proper models to distinguish themselves, they end up with some really ugly looking outfits. So I would help them with that, and I was quite successful at it. And I had an opportunity. Sales were down a little bit there, and I had an opportunity to be a night manager at a private country club. And so I decided I love golf. One of the benefits was senior staff had to play at least one round of golf every week with a member. Oh, I could do that, right? Oh, it was unbelievable, unbelievable. It was required. So I fell in love with the country club management. I joined an international company, at the time, the largest private club corporation in the world. And they taught me city club management. And so I already had an idea about golf. So that was cool. And again, I fell in love with it because I'm a foodie. I love my golf, but I'm a foodie. So my strength was better served by a very wise manager who first took me under his wing. He says, "I'm going to keep you away from country clubs. You and I'll go play golf at them, but you are city club material. I want you to stay in city club and train." I said, "Okay, let's do it." And so for a number of years, that's exactly what I did. Um, there, I'm just a vagabond. I like to travel. I like to
That's
move
great.
around and stuff, and I like my own company. I've had a couple. I've even sold one to the employees and walked away from it. And at a point in time, I stopped wanting to be in the club business and decided, you know what, I'm going to run my own show. I don't know what that show is right now, but I'm going to run it. So I've started up about 4 or 5 different adventures, and a couple of them were pretty successful. As I mentioned, I sold one to the employees. And currently, we have a corporation, a company. My partner and I, my wife, love of my life, we started out as a mom and pop consulting business to health and wellness professionals. And over time, within just a very short period of time, about 3 years, we did very little of that, and we started speaking from the stage, and we built our business to right now. We started in middle of 2012, and within 5 years, we have clients and trained practitioners on 6 continents, 17 countries, doing business in 6 languages. So we expanded very wide, but with the idea of not being tall. Last thing I want is offices. So all of my people office out of their own homes. And we have people who work from home. Ever heard of those? Work from home who run our accounting and various other things right out of their home. We don't have to worry about houses and things like that, because one of the things that I teach my mentees right up front, and this is kind of coaching, but it's more mentee, and that is, forget about thinking about a box. If you're thinking about being in a box or out of a box, you've got limiters. Limiting beliefs will limit your success and your prosperity. The sky's the limit. No, it's not. There is no limit. Okay. And so when you shift that mountain mentality to from I got to do this, I got to do that, I have to do this, I should do that, to I get to do this because I have made this choice. And I'm going to see it through to its results, analyze how I did it, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing and forget about timelines and sales goals and all those kinds of things. Because when people are doing that and they're achieving regularly, they exceed expectations and stakeholder shareholder expectations naturally as a result of that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And Now, again, I'm speaking nationally and internationally around this new model that I put.
That's amazing. I mean, it's really interesting to hear different perspectives from entrepreneurs and people that basically one day had enough and said, I just want to run my own show, and it doesn't mean that you can work for other companies here and there and whatnot, but generally speaking, it does take a certain kind of individual, and you have to make the jump, and you got to burn your bridges behind you and just go for it, right? So it's really really interesting to hear that. So I understand that you are big into profiling, and I understand the concept, and I myself, after reading Richard Koch's 80/20 principle book maybe 15 years ago, became obsessed with this walking into a room, and if there's 30 people, I knew that 20% of them are the ones that I need to meet, and they're the movers and shakers. And so these six, eventually, I was able to identify just by walking into a room, and it really gave me an edge and an advantage in networking, which I believe is the lifeblood of any business, and even as a person, even more so these days. So tell us a little bit about profiling and how you. And I know that you had a book called Profiling for Profit, I believe. So can you
Right.
talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I apologize for not having the book in front of me. Great salesman. Anyway, profiling for profit is a culmination of my observing people. I'm a people watcher. I've loved it all my life. And when I was traveling overseas, as soon as I could get off the ship, I was at a sidewalk cafe someplace with a cappuccino watching people. And over time, I noticed certain things. The way people would stand and move when they were very happy, as well as very, very excited and very mad, And I started noticing those traits and making mental notes of it. And when I was selling custom clothes, I started to experiment with reading the way people stand with general consensus and knowledge about human nature. For instance, Mario, you probably picked up a baby in your life. Where's that baby go? It goes over your heart. That's the left side of your body. What do you do with your head? You tilt it in. Okay, that's a baby. I love babies, right? So that's love, trust, confidence, that side of the body. So when somebody is leaning left or they have a tendency to talk to the left, they're being legit and they're focused on you and they understand what you're saying. So the right is goes back to the Romans and further back. The right side is deflection. You have a shield here and a knife over here, and you're always deflecting. Okay, so anybody that are not understanding you or they're not getting it or they're in a total no buy mode. For you sales guys out there, pay attention to this because I'm going to show you something about no buy that's just going to blow your mind. Profiling for profit. What crossed arms don't tell you is one night I was given a presentation in my store and to a guy that has to have custom clothing because he has a body that's pretty messed up from a severe car accident. And he was in front of me like this, okay, listening to my my presentation. His arms were crossed. This is a learned experience, ladies and gentlemen. This is a learned experience. This is what you learn to. Your mom and dad used to do this, remember? And so he's standing there, but he's tilting to the left, okay? And his feet were parallel to me. That means he was totally on board. He was protecting himself because he learned that, but he was totally on board. So I stopped my presentation right in the middle. I said, so you know about what I do. How do you want to pay for this? And he reaches for his wallet. He says, oh, you take American Express? And I said, yeah, let's sit down and look at some fabrics and then we'll do some measurements. Well, we're looking at fabrics and I'm starting to do the workup for the paperwork. And he sits back and he goes, wait a minute. And I look up at him and I said, you have a question? He says, yeah. I sell millions of dollars every month of my products all over the United States for the last 30 years. I'm standing in front of you, and I'm an experienced salesman, mister. I'm standing in front of you with my arms crossed and listening to you. I'm in a no buy. And I said, yeah, that here's why I knew you were ready. And I explained it to him, and he goes, that's amazing. Okay, so what are we doing next? Closed himself because he had already closed himself. He was already deciding to do it. But we're taught and patterned to say no 3 or 4 times before we say yes, and crossing our arms and doing all those things. Those are learned responses, ladies and gentlemen. Those are not reading the body themselves. Now, there's hundreds, thousands probably, of books on profiling, and they're all valid. Every single one of them that I've read are valid for that author and for those things that they're teaching. I have found a very consistent way to read not movement of subconscious movement of muscles. Okay, the person wasn't paying
Mhm.
attention that he was left and that he had his feet directly to me. He was paying attention to me and what I was saying, but he thought he was protecting himself. People do that, and that's what profiling for profit, what crossed arms don't tell you, is all about. It's available on Kindle, on Amazon, and the paperback. So yeah, thanks for asking about the profiler. I love profile. As soon as you said the word profile, I went, ooh, this could go fun.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, sales is it is profiling, and nowadays with sales being more online, it's is can you see the whole person? Is it just their face? Is it just over the phone and whatnot? So it's one of the things that at our company, Veza Digital, we pride ourselves in actually going out and visiting every single one of our clients as much as we can. And we're all over the world, and we have 3 different offices, and that's just something, we hop on a plane and we go and have lunch with them, and we talk to them, and that's really, really important to us to be able to sit face to face, and we don't even need to talk about business, but getting to know each other, and seeing how we can help each other in whatever way. So that's something that we really, really, really pride ourselves in. So that's great. That's awesome. So I know that one of
Yeah,
your
you had mentioned also. I just wanted to add in one of the paragraphs or one of the chapters in the book is how to enter a networking situation and read the room, so that you walk into the room confidently. You know how to go to the restroom first. Check everything. Check to see if lunch is in your teeth. I'm serious. People do that. But it
yeah,
also allows you to look in the mirror and give yourself the super mom pose and say, you're all right. This is going to be good. And when you step into the room, you come into the room for the very first time, you stop for 1 second. That, okay, we move, our eyes move with changes of movement. When somebody walks into a room and they stop, you look at them. Why do they stop? Okay. Then you can very quickly, within seconds, according to my book, follow the book, within a couple of seconds, you know who in the room wants to talk to you right now, and you approach them. That's very powerful.
amazing.
Mhm.
Right, and you don't waste your time, right? And you can you can see who's open, who's not open to discussions. Really, really good. That's amazing advice. So I know one of your business models is achievement based rather than goal focused. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that? That's really something that I find interesting.
Well, let's start with going back in time for both of us. When was the last time that you really achieved something significant? How did you feel? You were elated. You were happy. You were pumped. You can't wait to do it again. You can't wait to go back and replicate it. So, only one problem with that. If you're the only one that achieved, then you're eventually going to start coming down. Okay. So it's like waves in the ocean. However far you get excited, there's going to be an adjustment, and then you come back to normal. Now let's change that scenario just a little bit. What if an entire office, an entire division, an entire company, okay, is achieving together? Now you have a whole mass of positive energy that's going to take you from where you were on a day-to-day basis and raise it up. Your whole company pumps each other up on a day-to-day basis because everybody's excited to come to work. Here's what's significant about achievement-based versus goals. Goals are pretty well meant to miss. That's a limited belief. That's one of those things. If you exceed your goal, terrific, but you're going to miss it more than you exceed it, even the best of us. However, if you give up that thought and that limiting belief and you get your people together and have them believe in the vision that you're going for, whatever that vision is for the company, for yourself, and you give up the timelines and the goals, leave the timelines for the accounting office. They've got to do taxes and such, but you don't. Okay. When everybody in the company is excited and achieving regularly, here's what happens right up front. You have happier employees, can't wait to get to work. Okay. They are happy at home because work is terrific. They're happy at home. They're healthier at home. They eat healthier. Okay. They're more connected and active with their family members. Okay. When they get to work, they can't wait to get to work. This is not, oh God, I've got to be there by 7. It's, I'm going to be there by 6:15 and have my cup of coffee and be ready for everybody because I can't wait to do what I'm doing. Right. Now, here, business owners, here's the other side of that coin. All right. Healthier people don't get sick. Lower sick days, lower health care and insurance rates. Your safety, for those of you who are in manufacturing or whatever, safety numbers, the accidents plummet. Okay. They just drop out because happy people are engaged. They're focused. They're doing what they're thinking. They're not trying to put a widget together thinking about making a mortgage payment. That doesn't work. And, Richard Branson. So Richard Branson started Virgin back in the 90s, and he has kept one philosophy the entire time. Take care of your people, and they'll take care of your customers. Now, when everybody in the world was scrambling for people to go to work, he was putting together some cruise ships. He didn't have to worry about it. People came to him. Okay. People want to work for Richard Branson because when he showed up at his first cruise ship's opening, he was down in the holes. He was in engineering. He was everywhere, patting people on the back and acknowledging them as real people. That's where achievement versus goals comes in. Okay. And the result is better business, more successful. Shareholders are very happy because you're exceeding projections, etc., on a regular basis.
Amazing. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that when people have, you know, something to look forward to, when the vision is aligned, it's amazing to go to work and be around people that you can help, and maybe different people have different visions. They want this, they want that, and if you know those things, or you can really help each other develop that vision, I guess, for themselves. So really, really amazing. I really like that a lot. I want to talk about your United Nations Peace Ambassador at Large title. So I know you're passionate about world peace, and who isn't? I hope. Well, some people, I guess, are not. But can you talk a little bit about that? That's a really current subject, I suppose. And how did you get involved with that? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, what prepared me to go into the training and become an ambassador was back in the Navy. I get along with people very well, and I just always took care of people. So I was in charge of protocol almost all the time, and so working with dignitaries that would come to our ship when we were in port and those kinds of things gave me some ideas, and I worked with the book on protocol. And a colleague of mine who's in an organization called WOMI, they are a nonprofit that works with the United Nations on peace missions. They support them and do their thing. and they have a training and certification thing. And he invited me to take it. He says, "You're perfect for this. You're already doing the thing for refugees. Let's get you into the world peace thing, which is part of your spiritual journey." And I go, "Okay, well, let's look into this." And I did. I talked to the people and I decided to go for it. And right after COVID started, I received my shield and my identification as a UN Peace Ambassador at large. I haven't gone anywhere yet because we couldn't go anywhere for a while anyway. And there's a lot of people senior to me that are going to go out sometime in the future. I'll be out there on the street someplace. But for now, I just speak on behalf of refugees. I have a very large social media, over 65,000 people on different social media platforms are following me and my message. I teach that to my mentees as well. Does that make sense? Have a message. Don't tell people what you're doing. Give them a message to the people that are looking for you that this is what you're doing. Your way of approaching this podcast. I've been sending a message to my ideal clients from the beginning of this podcast, but I haven't said that. Okay. Does that make sense, Mario?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is that
Okay.
message?
That message is I'm okay to work with. And I'm very experienced, very global. I bring very unique experience and multiple industry experiences with me to a mentoring situation. I don't like coaching. I don't coach. All right. My partner does. I mentor people. I am their go-to person. I am their inside man in this instance, where they can talk to me about anything. They can talk about where the company's going or where they want to go with their career or whatever they're doing. And I can give them feedback based on my knowledge and experience, not on my motivation for them to do something or not do something. Okay. I don't motivate my mentees into doing something that I want them to do. It's their decision. I'm here to support them. And when I ask the question, does that make sense? That's a pointed question. Write that down, people who are listening. Does that make sense? 97% of the time you ask that to a person, they'll say yes. And you get them to say yes out loud. All right. This is a sales teaching right now. When a person says yes out loud 3 or 4 times during a conversation, they've given themselves subconscious permission so that when I present, "Are you ready to buy?" Okay, they can say yes comfortably, not the proverbial no 3 or 4 times because that's the way they've been taught. Does that make sense, Mario?
Yes, it does. That's great. That's really, really good advice. I like that a lot. It's interesting. I mean, the more people I talk to, the more I realize how important mentorship is. And a lot of business leaders, a lot of times, think that having a mentor is a certain type of weakness. And I absolutely disagree with that. I think the most successful people have mentors, and the more I talk to mentors such as yourself, the more I realize that that's one thing that all successful people, business people and people, have in common. I mean, there's certain things that successful people have in common. And I believe that that is really right up there in the top 3, 5 things that's kind of necessary to save yourself time, I suppose, right? Like, why take 10 years when you can just talk to somebody and do it in a year? I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's almost a hack, isn't it? You know. So
Yeah, you're
you must have. Go ahead.
uh, coaches are ideal for specific things. You get a life coach for life issues. You get a business coach that is a CRM expert. Okay. They can teach and help you put together whatever it is you're thinking about doing in specific areas. The mentor is everybody. Okay. For those of you, yes, I'm a mentor and I get paid for it pretty well. I have mentees right now on 2 continents. actually three, but one's in the United States. And the key is a long term commitment. Okay. We are in this and this journey together as it goes, as they rise. Okay. Um, I bring a perspective that they can't find in their industry. Okay. And that is a good example is I have a very senior executive in the banking industry. I'm not a banker. I know how to run budgets and for my company and corporate and those kinds of things, run $20 million corporate budgets, et cetera. But I don't know the intricacies of finance and banking. So when I took him on as a mentee, I learned about it. Okay. Whenever he would come up with an idea, I would learn everything there is to know about his idea. Then we would talk about it. And I could give him my perspective on what would be a good idea or not be a good idea and why. Okay. Don't do this, don't do that. That doesn't exist. Here's what I would do based on what we've talked about. Sounds good to me. But you, mentee, you make the ultimate decision. And your decision may be the opposite of mine, doesn't make it right or wrong. Neither of us are right or wrong. And I'm not going to quit you because you didn't do what I told you. Okay. I'm teaching you how to think for yourself. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, what I imagine you have some role models. Who in your life, who you would say it can be one or two or three, was a role model? It can be a famous person, it can be somebody in your family, it can be a friend. You know,
Very early on in my indigenous identification, um, I read the biography on Gandhi. And yeah, it had a lot to do with peace and those kinds of things. But just as important, what resonated with me and Gandhi is he thought about people and how it would relate to the actions they do. Okay. He just doesn't say, pick up your guns and go shoot people. Or he says, don't pick up a gun because they're going to kill all of you. Okay. There's something to be said about that. But he sat from a perspective of, okay, here's the big picture. And how can I support my people with the big picture? And my people can take care of all the little things. Okay. And he trusted them. So that was big for me. Another person in my past is the first president of the United States, George Washington. Okay. He took the job of president because he talked him into it. And he only stuck around a limited amount of time and he walked away. Okay. I'm only going to do this to get us started. And then you, Congress, going to find us my replacement and their replacement and their replacement. And we're going to build this country in such a way that the people are the most important, not our individual plantations and commerce and all that stuff. A lot of people in senior positions in the U.S. government, for instance, and a couple of U.S. presidents were slave owners. I mean, that's the reality of it. The first people who could vote in the United States had to be white landowners to cast a vote, male. Okay, so that those are the big things, and what that President Washington had for the future is incredible because it's still in place today and it's still solid today. So those are two people from two different areas and thoughts processes that I refer to pretty regularly.
amazing. Yeah, a lot of people forget about, call them elders, since we talked about that. People that lived 100 years ago, 200, 300, 400. I myself have a mentor, and he said, if a book isn't 100 years old, you ain't gonna find a lot of wisdom in it yet. So it's absolutely incredible what you can do by reading some of these biographies about some of these leaders going back thousands of years. Because at the end of the day, we're all people. We think not so differently. Yes, we have technology now, but overall we're pretty damn close to the way we were thousands of years ago, you know? So that's really amazing. So, Terry, tell me about, you know, if you were in my shoes, um, and you had to ask yourself a question that I didn't ask, what would that be?
If I had to answer a question that you have not asked yet, I love that. I'm going to hold on to that. Where are you going from here? Okay. And my response would be my voice. I've got one of those voices, ladies and gentlemen, people love to listen to live and online. And I know that my strength and my abilities to help the biggest amount of people is to be live and on stage. Okay. Um, Nowadays, since COVID, I've been on Zoom with 1,100 people. You know, it's still the mass. The key is my journey in life is world peace. Okay. And to get there, we each get to start with inner peace because you don't have inner peace, you can't give peace. You cannot give what you do not have. So, inner peace, I give my inner peace to you, Mario, and you give your inner peace to Aziz or your wife or whatever. Now that's two, and then it goes to three, and then it goes to four, and then somebody gives some back to me. So then that I'm expanding the inner peace, and we're expanding it across the world. But it has to begin with yourself, okay? And it's okay to make mistakes. That's part of the journey. It's learning from the mistakes that's critical. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Is there a Cherokee word that would describe that? I know a lot of uh, Indians have words that describe that. Is there something like that?
I was taught a very cool two-word phrase. Aho in North America means an acknowledgement. Yeah, I agree with you, or hi, or bye, or it's a universal word. Aho, A-H-O. And the second word is three syllables, ta, hesh, da, family. We are all family, okay? Not only are we relatives, a lot of indigenous tribes, Lakota, Dakota, talk about relatives. But being in Taheshta is anything and everything. That's Taheshta. You and I are Taheshta. My dog is Taheshta. Everything. I am all am I. We're all it. Okay. And at some point, thousands of years ago, somebody wanted to take control of something and they started saying we and they. And that's where it began. That's where that separation comes. Taheshta brings us back to center. So, aho, I acknowledge you. Taheshta, my family.
I love it. Aho, Taheshta. Ambassador Terry, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. It was a pleasure. Can you tell our viewers where they can find you?
I highly recommend doing a Bing search, Google search, whatever research platform you use, and look at Terry Earthwind Nichols. It must have Earthwind in it because there's 17,000 Terry Nichols in North America alone. There's one Terry Earthwind Nichols in the world. Okay. I have a Linktree site that has all of my social media on it, but just Google Terry Earthwind Nichols. I'm an open book. You can find my author pages, my websites, everything I'm doing. Enjoy them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mario. This is great.